Lou, what's up, baby?
How you doing, Shawn?
What's up, man?
I want to see you back in the ring, man.
I know you do.
Now, all I see lately is Shawn the commentator, Shawn the TV announcer, right? But you're good at it, bro. You're good at it. You're gonna have a future way beyond when you're fighting. So
I love it. And
keep it up,
Lou,
man.
I mean, we've sat next to each other at fights before, and I remember I was sitting next to you at a fight one time, myself and my dad. We were talking, and you turned around, looked at me and my dad, and you said, "You guys are great. What you guys are saying right now should be on TV, but I'm glad you're right here behind me so that I can hear it." So I mean, I think if anything, you can really attest to how long I've kind of been training and practicing to do what I'm doing now.
Well, look, you and Kenny have been talking boxing on the highest level since you're a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And your dad's a great boxing man. You're a good boxing man. But that's the whole key of being a really good commentator or being good at what you're doing, you guys are doing right now with the podcast, but really also being a really good commentator. It's about the ability to talk to the people watching the same way you'd be sitting talking to your old man about a fight.
Yeah.
And that's why you're already pretty good at this, and you're going to keep getting better with the more reps you're getting. But terrific transition to that part of your career.
For sure. Listen,
so I was thinking, before I forget this thought, when Jamel was on, he made a comment about not caring what part of what side of the street anybody's on. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, it's just so unfortunate that we haven't seen enough of the best welterweight fights, and particularly how isolated Crawford's been from fighting high opposition. Yeah. But I was also thinking to myself that when I first got into boxing, and I was like a huge fan, and it was the welterweight division and the divisions around it were like Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran, all those guys, and loads of others that were at the weight classes at that time. You never heard the fighters talking about the side of the street, who was promoting who was managing who. You heard them demanding the fights against each other. Yeah. And I guess what bothers me a little bit now is there's too many guys. I think maybe they hide behind the side of the street a little bit too, that you don't see them going out there and saying, I want this guy, go get him for me. And they start worrying about splits and negotiations. Well, that's why you got business people around you. That's why you got a manager. That's why you got a promoter if you have one, and I'm just a little bit sad that we're not seeing more of the best quality product more often.
Yeah.
Mr. I call you Mr. Boxing of New York. Ain't a glove can go in and out of the state without you knowing about it. So I know you know. You probably ain't gonna tell me, but we getting Crawford Porter at the Barclays, right? And I just all I want to know, because we know you Mr. New York with boxing.
Hey man, I 30 years of hanging out here in New York City in boxing. So but look, at our best, there is no sport that touches boxing. A great fight, a heavyweight championship that's evenly matched, because it's mano a mano or woman against woman. It's not always the best athlete that wins. Yeah. There's all sorts of intangibles. Who's got the bigger heart, who's got more skill, who's faster, who punches harder, who takes punches better. There's a beauty and a poetry to our sport that's not there anyplace else when we're at our best. But I'm a little bit disappointed with how infrequently our best happens these days.
Lou, a lot of people feel like that's what's opened the door for these Jake Paul type of fights is, boxing not making the best fights possible.
Well, yeah, I think that's partially true, because when you don't make the best parts possible, also you don't make the stars that transcend boxing. In the days of you got to remember, man, Leonard, Hearns, Hagler, and Duran, not only were they 4 boxing stars, they were 4 sports stars. They were pop culture stars. They were in commercials all over the world. They were celebrities like Ali was, like Tyson was. And right now, partially because our product's not consistently where it could be, guys aren't becoming what they could be. And there's a lot of fighters that are I'm not going to name names, but a lot of world champions making a lot of money that could still walk down, the streets of Times Square when it's normal times, and no one would know who the fuck they are. And that's a little different from when I was a kid. You know, when I became, well, look, I'm old, man, but like I turned 60 during this shit. I never even knew what 60 looked like, man. And now I'm sitting here and I'm 60 and I can't believe it.
Somebody told me an amazing story that Ali fought one night, and after he won, he knocked out the guy. He said basically the world always stood still when Ali was in the ring, but the world stood still when a lot of big fighters were in the ring. He said that after Ali got that knockout, I think it was George Foreman. After Ali knocked out Foreman, people got in their cars and drove around the city beeping horns. About Ali.
No, I'll give you
boxing.
I worked at HBO before I became a promoter for about over a decade. That's to some extent that's where I made my bones.
I didn't know if we were gonna get into that or not, but yeah, I know that. I don't know how many people do, but
I was pretty good at that stuff when I was in TV, and I remember I had just started 1989. It was like I had just started at HBO, and I could have gone to the Tyson Douglas fight, but they said to me, "Don't bother. It's a long way to go for a short fight." Little did they know. But I remember watching the fight in New York City in my apartment, and the window was open because it was like a nice night. And when the fight got stopped, you heard through the window screams of people from their like apartments and houses screaming when Mike Tyson had lost, that it was like such a shock.
Yeah.
And you know, while all the boxing or dead people are wrong, it's never going to die. Like, and they're wrong simply because people will always fight for other people's entertainment. And the sport has such a purity and a beauty in its brutality that it's never going to totally go away.
Yeah.
It's become more of a niche sport now. It's not like the same thing where we were, you know, yes, on a great night, on a big night of a big fight, we can command the attention of the sports world. But there was a time where we were commanding the attention of the sports world almost every week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I'd like to get us back to.
Yeah. I'm doing my part.
I told Shawn, I've always respected you and been a fan just because like you are on here. You shoot it straight. I've never heard you say something where I was like, I'm getting some bullshit vibes from what Lou's saying, because it seems like it always comes from the heart. Another thing that I've grown to respect you even more for is just being an advocate for women's boxing. Where does that come from specifically? Obviously, you have Amanda Serrano, who is, we talked about it, unbelievable in the ring. Where's that?
She's an incredible talent.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? That it came from a weird place because I wasn't always pro women's boxing. Back in the like the 90s and the early 2000s, the talent pool was so thin. Like there were women that were great even then: Ann Wolfe, Layla Ali, Christy Martin. Lucia Rico was the greatest female fighter I'd ever seen, like, you know, back when. And there was tremendous talent, but there was nobody for them to fight. And even now, frankly, you know, at the higher weight classes, like for Claressa, there's almost no one to fight. Like there's no talent pool. But right now at the lower weight classes, you're seeing women's boxing healthier than it's ever been. And there are more little girls in the gyms. There are more young women in the gyms. Female amateur boxing has a lot of tremendous talent in it. Like the women and how hard they work and how willing they are to sacrifice for so much less money than the men, with barely in the United States any opportunity. You know, not a lot. You know, I think that series you've been working on, Shawn, Ring City, has done a lot for women in the last year. They've created more opportunities for women, but like there hasn't been a PBC fight involving women since I stopped doing promotion with PBC. Or more accurate, like, you know, Al and I are still cool. We just stopped working together, but back then there was a little bit. You don't see any PBC fights right now involving women. You don't see any Showtime fights right now involving women. ESPN has one female fighter, Michaela, and that's it. Like they're not really in women's boxing; they're in Michaela boxing. So the opportunities are few and far between. So now it's almost become a cause, because God knows I'm not making money in women's boxing, you know. But I you know what? Like I've had a nice run, and maybe before I'm done, they'll remember a little bit that I was part of helping women's boxing get to a fairer place. Women's boxing is never going to be where men's boxing is, but it certainly should be in a place where there is more regular opportunity for these ladies. And you know, I have 3 female world champions in the 140-pound weight class. And it's impossible for those women in the United States to get a television slot that will pay them $50,000 to defend the world title.
Right.
You know, and part of the reason why I'm cool with Kaylee Reese and Christina Lenardadu and Mary McGee is because they know how hard I'm working to try to make it happen for them. But I can't make a network pay. I can't make a streaming service pay. I can't make them give slots to women more often. I can hustle and have conversations like this and point out how I think things are unfair, but it's not so easy to change those things. But you know what, man? The women that are fighting right now, they're doing it out of love. Yeah. Like they love the game, man. They love fighting. And you know, women give birth. They have a tremendous tolerance for pain. You don't see women quit in that ring. You know, you don't.
Never.
They throw down. I watched, I mean, that fight on Ring City, that Bermudez 8 shots, she kept coming. She kept throwing. I mean, you know, there was a reason that girl was on a female pound for pound list.
Yeah. Even myself, I never really paid female boxing attention too much. You know, I knew some of the big names growing up, and I know some of the big names now, but Ring City honestly has been the ones that kind of was forced to study these women and be prepared to talk about them on air. And I'm like, I missed something, and I'm sorry I missed it, but these women are good. These women,
a lot of them are. There are some really, really talented ladies.
These women,
a lot of them are really good.
It's not an exaggeration. These women fight with tons of heart. I'm not going to say they fight with more heart than men, but there's some men out there that don't do what these women are willing to do in the boxing ring. And I find it very, very admirable, and I find you very commendable. It's very commendable for you to go out there and try to make that happen for those women. And I hope that at some capacity this does something to spark it.
I have one.
And by the way, I'm going to say something you don't hear a lot. I love the 2-minute rounds. Love them.
You do.
100%, man, because you get nonstop action every round.
That's true.
You know, there's another issue. People don't want to talk about it so much, but women are more susceptible to serious concussive head injury than men are. It's just physiologically a fact. I mean, there's a reason, like in women's sports, they're looking at headers and women's soccer and stuff like that. There is a little bit of a difference in terms of how women are affected by blows to the head and concussion. And frankly, but like if you're not going to get TV networks and streaming services to televise 20 minutes in a championship fight or 16 minutes of action in a regular fight,
right?
Why do you think they're going to give more time when you make the fights longer?
Right.
You know, I think you might see a couple of more knockouts with 3 minutes rounds, but what you're going to see more often is simply that women don't punch the same way, and they don't.
Yeah.
And you're going to see longer fights that are less action filled.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help anybody, honestly. But if we want to start thinking about changes to women's boxing, maybe we take down the size of the gloves. So where men use 8 and 10 ounce gloves, maybe women should be using 6 and 8 ounce gloves. I tend to think that would result actually in more knockouts and maybe a little bit more action that's a little hotter. You know?
I have one out of left field, pun intended. You're obviously a baseball owner, multiple teams.
Dang it.
If you could get one baseball player in baseball history in the ring for a sparring match so you could put hands on him, who you picking?
If I could put hands on him?
Yeah, you get 3 minutes, a sparring round. You could get
Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one. I think that might be one of the most popular answers, I would guess.
Come on, Alex, I'm a Mets fan too, so it's especially Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah.
You got something, Shawn?
One series in 09, Lou. We got to cut him some slack.
Who's that?
I said A-Rod got us one World Series in 09, Lou. We got to cut him a little slack.
All right, you got a point. You got a point there. You got a point there.
Hey, Lou. You know, as Shawn's friend, my thing with Shawn, you know, I'm a realist with him. I'm the friend. I do okay income, and I'm cheap. So my thing is always trying to tell Shawn we got to have money out after boxing. Man,
excuse me, my dog is punching me in the face.
Yeah, what's up with that?
The dog did not appreciate the A-Rod shot.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you what it is. She's a puppy. And she's like, I mean, I was hanging around a lot during this pandemic, so this dog got a lot of attention. So when I'm sitting here on the phone talking to you guys, she gets jealous, so she jumps up and starts punching me in the face.
Unreal.
So I was just wondering, you're a realist. You give it, you tell it like it is. Have you ever advised like guys like with their money situation? Obviously, you're only gonna make this money for so long, and you still have another 30 to 40 years after. You ever advise guys, like give good advice? You seem like you do pretty well with your money, owning the biscuits and stuff. It's the Montgomery biscuits. That's his baseball team.
And the Richmond Flying Squirrels.
And the Richmond Flying Squirrels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what?
Who I play for on MLB The Show. But
it's generally more of a management role to be talking to fighters about technically a promoter doesn't have like even legally a fiduciary duty, like a duty to the fighter that a manager has. But I've released a lot of fighters that have gone on and continued because I felt that they weren't going to win a title again or be able to see big money again. And I didn't want them to take more abuse physically. I try to set some kind of rules for myself. I've always advised fighters when they make a lot of money to try to get an annuity or go talk to a financial advisor. Even during the pandemic, fighters didn't realize that they theoretically could have gotten unemployment and seen benefits. It's very important for a fighter to have either a good manager or a good lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think you need both, but one or the other I think is an important thing. Because also the business has also changed right now. There are 3 major outlets in North America, and only 4 promotional companies have output deals. If you consider PBC a promotional company, and I don't want to get into the debate, but I probably do.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Allegedly.
I'm not going to, but
don't do it. Not here. Not here.
I won't. I enjoyed I got to promote some of the best fighters in the world during the years I worked with PBC. I got to promote Shawn Porter. I got to promote all those great welterweights. I have, I'm grateful for the time I worked, with those guys. And you do business together as long as sometimes with people. And then that stage of things ends. You haven't seen me go out there and say a bad word about Heyman. Yeah. Because Al and I go back a long, long time, and all in all, my whole life's experiences with Al have been more positive than anything else. Everybody, you work long enough with people, you're going to disagree on some shit. That's just life. And both Al and I are strong, people. But I got great respect for him and what he's done with PBC and how many fighters he's made wealthy. And honestly, that's what a manager's supposed to do.
Exactly.
I got to tell this story. I hope you don't mind, because R.A. the Rugged Man, he mentions this story to me every time because he was there. I think you know R.A. But we actually met over 15 years ago, but I don't know if you remember. But I'm at the fight, Hopkins versus Taylor 2, with my buddy. And you're there, very serious, very focused on this huge fight everyone's been waiting for. And I see you walking through the arena, ready for the main event, and me and my buddy go, "Hey, Lou!" And we throw up the X like that, and you go, like we deserved. We got the middle finger we deserved, and of course, because you and Bernard had your awful falling out, and but Lou was a great guy. I was 14 at the time, me and my buddy, and right after the fight, he saw us. He's like, "Get over here," and he took a picture with both of us, and it was just hilarious. We were both fucking around. Do you remember that at all, Lou?
I hadn't until you just refreshed me, but yes, I do. You made a point though, but Bernard and I had Bernard wasn't getting TV time. And when I left HBO, part of the deal I got dates to make fights. And I gave a bunch of those dates to Bernard to build him. And I made the deal with King that got Bernard the Trinidad fight. And where he really shocked a lot of people. He didn't shock me. And then he said some shit about me that just wasn't true. And I wound up suing him and beating him in court on libel. Because frankly, it was the shit that he said was a lie. And I won in court. Now for a while, man, things were really raw because I had this was a guy that I believed in and had strong feelings for, that I felt really wronged me. And me and him were like oil and water for a number of years. Mm-hmm. But you know what's interesting, man? Time heals things and people get to talk. And Bernard made a point of reaching out to me later and saying some things I think that we both needed to, well, I needed to hear, and maybe he needed to say. But he and I are cool now. I mean, it's easier, even if you have a really, rough time with people. We also had some good memories together. And as he said to me, he spoke to me after we got elected to the Hall of Fame in the same year. Oh, nice. And he said, well, we both, he goes, for all our ups and downs and troubles, we both got to a pretty good place, Mm-hmm. And I'm cool with the fact that we made peace, because whatever happened, man, Bernard Hopkins, the fighter, that's just one of the greatest of all time, period. Yeah. I mean, that's really one of the great middleweights in the history of boxing, a tremendous athlete, a tremendous fighter. Yeah. And people forget he got out of the joint and lost his first fight.
Yeah, that's
mm-hmm. right. And look where he is.
Clinton Mitchell, I think, was his name or something. Yeah.
That very good, Shawn. Good memory, man.
All right,
I always love that story, man. I hope you love it a little bit as well.
Well, I'm sorry, Shawn. I gave you the finger, and I'm glad I took that picture with you.
It felt deserved.
I knew from that moment I had a future in this business, Lou. Thank you.
Lou, you have a good night, man. Thank you for staying up with us. And great to see
being with
man.
You guys, and all the best. I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Yeah, man. We'll have you back on, Lou. Take care. Don't tell me you didn't enjoy what you saw, because I know you did. What you need to do now, hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit that notification button. Check us out every week, every Tuesday, something new for you right here on the Porter Way Podcast.